Money doesn't grow on trees, but apparently stupidity does, and it's tax-free. Humanity's greatest achievement isn't invention or exploration. It's the ability to turn unimaginable wealth into dust faster than you can say crypto dip. And trust me, we've only just scratched the surface of financial faceplants. 1. The diamond that got vacuumed. Imagine buying a $350,000 diamond ring and then treating it like pocket lint. A millionaire couple in Florida did just that when the wife accidentally dropped her engagement ring into a pile of dust during cleaning day. Instead of looking for it, the housekeeper efficiently vacuumed the entire area, bag and all, and took the trash straight to the curb. By the time anyone noticed, the garbage truck had already made its rounds. The family spent 3 days digging through a landfill the size of a small kingdom, offering $10,000 to anyone who found it. Spoiler, no one did. It's the only time in history someone literally threw away a small fortune, then tipped the person who helped them do it. 2. The man who bet his farm on Beanie Babies. The 1990s, a simpler time when everyone thought tiny stuffed animals were a better investment than, say, property. One Illinois farmer sold 40 acres of land, actual productive farmland, to buy Beanie Babies in bulk, convinced he was sitting on the next gold rush. He built a climate-controlled room, cataloged each plushie, and even insured them like artwork. Then, the bubble popped. His retirement fund turned into a warehouse of polyester sadness worth less than a single tractor tire. When asked about it later, he said, "I still believe they'll come back in value." That's not optimism. That's financial Stockholm syndrome. 3. The lottery winner who sued himself. Jack Whitaker won $315 million in the Powerball and immediately began a one-man campaign to prove that money can't buy judgment. Within a year, he'd been robbed 4 times, sued by a casino, and charged with drunk driving. But the crown jewel of his downfall? He tried to sue his own construction company for stealing his luck by not finishing his new house on time. The judge dismissed it faster than his liver could process another whiskey sour. By 2006, he was broke and publicly admitted, "I wish I'd torn that ticket up," which might be the saddest sentence ever spoken by a man who once had enough money to buy the moon, or at least a controlling stake in West Virginia. 4. The tech bro who hodled his password. There's risk management, and then there's writing your life savings on an encrypted hard drive and trusting the process. Our hero bought crypto early, bragged loudly, and stored millions on a tiny metal brick that requires one very specific password. He wrote 10 clever hints to himself, like it's a treasure map for future him. First pet? College motto? Favorite pizza topping? Cut to 6. Years later, he's sitting at attempt 8 of 10, breathing like a man defusing a bomb with oven mitts. He hires hypnotists, memory coaches, even a password shaman who burned sage over the laptop. Nothing. The market swings $100 grand per keystroke, while he debates whether his high school locker combo had a 12 or a 21. He didn't lose money in crypto. He lost it in hubris as a service. Final punchline, the world's most expensive paperweight is now his conversation piece. 5. The will that turned into a family cage match. Grandpa should have left a fruitcake. Instead, he left a fun little puzzle. His will split the estate 3 ways, but only after the grandkids completed a scavenger hunt across 3 states to prove they earned it. Cute on paper, Civil War in reality. Cousin Linda steals the clue hidden in a bowling trophy. Uncle Mike hires a PI. Someone live streams a cemetery argument next to great-grandma's headstone like it's WrestleMania, probate edition. By the time lawyers, travel, and lost work time get tallied, they've incinerated more cash than the house was worth. The judge finally orders a sale to preserve family peace, which is generous because these people won't speak again until the estate tax bill needs signatures. Moral? If you want your family to remember you fondly, leave cookies. If you want a blood feud with receipts, leave riddles. 6. The vacation home that never vacated anyone. A couple buys a turnkey Airbnb goldmine based on a listing that looked like a Margaritaville fever dream. Drone shots, perfect sunsets, and a pool bluer than a toothpaste ad. They don't bother with an inspection because the reviews are great. Turns out, the reviews were for a different property, the drone footage was stock, and the bluest thing on site is the mold. The pool pump's dead, the AC wheezes like a harmonica, and the HOA handbook reads like the Geneva Conventions for lawn chairs. They spend $60,000 on emergency fixes, list it, then learn the town quietly banned short-term rentals last year. Long-term tenants? Sure, if you like earning less than a lemonade stand and buying a new water heater monthly. After 2 summers of negative cash flow, they sell at a loss. Final line, the only thing that was turnkey was how fast the money turned and left. 7. The credit card points warrior. He wasn't spending, he was manufacturing value. He opened 12 cards, memorized bonus categories like a Vegas dealer, and could recite the quarterly gas station drugstore office supply triangle faster than his kids' birthdays. Then came the hack. Buy gift cards to buy money orders to pay the cards to buy more gift cards. You can hear the Jenga tower leaning. One algorithmic breeze later, banks flagged him like a parade, accounts frozen, rewards clawed back, and a cheerful letter citing the words abuse and gaming. Meanwhile, interest on a few, temporary, balances compounds like a villain monologue. He sells the free first-class tickets just to cover late fees on the free hotel nights he never used because he was too busy chasing the next 5X category. End scene. A spreadsheet with 47 tabs, a credit score that now lives in the crawl space, and one very expensive lesson. Miles aren't money, interest is. 8. The art collector who bought a certificate. A hedge fund hotshot decides it's time to diversify into culture. Translation: he buys whatever a glossy catalog tells him to. He drops 7 figures on a rare piece with impeccable provenance, which, if you don't speak auctioneese, means paperwork thicker than the canvas. He hangs it under museum lighting, hosts cocktail parties, and practices saying post-war like he's allergic to vowels. Then, a bored journalist notices a tiny discrepancy in a shipping log from 1987. One forensic pigment test later, Picasso turns into probably painted near Pittsburgh. The gallery offers store credit, because apparently you can return a 3-bedroom condo, but not a fake painting. Insurance balks, lawyers bill by the brushstroke, and he learns the harsh gallery truth. The certificate's real, the art isn't. He ends up donating it to a restaurant where it pairs nicely with the breadsticks. Congratulations, you just bought a very fancy conversation about provenance. 9. The inheritance that went straight to Vegas. Most people say they'll invest their inheritance. Few specify where. One 27-year-old man from Ohio received $480,000 after his grandfather's passing and decided to turn it into $1 million. His plan? A strategic gambling weekend in Las Vegas. He booked the penthouse suite, hired a luck consultant, and wore a custom jacket that said "House Loser," as irony, of course. By Monday morning, the money was gone, his consultant was MIA, and the only thing he owned outright was a bar tab longer than his MBA thesis. He claimed afterward he'd learned a lot about risk. Yeah, mostly that casinos aren't educational institutions, and blackjack doesn't accept student loan forgiveness. 10. The man who insured his beer belly. A British pub owner decided his gut was his greatest asset, literally. He took out a $2.3 million insurance policy on his beer belly, claiming it was his brand identity. He even staged publicity photos with tourists rubbing it for luck. When a doctor later told him to lose weight or risk his life, he did the unthinkable. He got fit. His insurer promptly canceled the policy for breach of condition, and his bar's business tanked because patrons wanted the mascot, not the man. So, to save his livelihood, he started eating again, reclaiming both the belly and the debt. In the end, he didn't lose the weight or the money, just his dignity, which apparently wasn't covered by insurance. 11. The woman who buried her cash in Tupperware. During the 2008 financial crisis, one woman in Kansas decided banks couldn't be trusted, so she withdrew her entire savings of $180,000 and buried it in her backyard inside plastic containers. Fast forward 2 years, she sells the house, forgets the exact location, and leaves town. The new homeowners discover the buried treasure while installing a fence and think it's part of a drug deal. The police confirm it's legit money, but can't legally return it to the original owner because the statute of limitations on her claim expired. She literally missed her chance to redeposit her fortune because she didn't want to deal with paperwork. Somewhere in Kansas, there's a patch of dirt that has a higher net worth than she does. 12. The influencer who tried to sell air. You know you've reached peak capitalism when someone bottles oxygen. A wellness influencer from Los Angeles decided that mountain air was under-monetized. She took weekend trips to Colorado, filled mason jars, slapped a pastel label that read Pure Altitude Essence, and sold them online for $99 each. The product went viral after a celebrity unboxing, and then viral again when customers realized they'd paid $100 for an empty jar. When regulators stepped in, she claimed it was performance art about consumerism. The FTC called it fraud about consumerism. She was fined $350,000 and now sells invisible crystals on Etsy. Say what you will, at least her business model finally matches her product, completely full of air. 13. The million-dollar toilet seat. Government spending is a miracle of imagination. In 1987, a Pentagon audit revealed that a military contractor had billed the U.S. government $640 apiece for toilet seats. And the best part? Nobody noticed for years. When asked how that number made sense, the contractor claimed it was a custom ergonomic defense design. Translation? Someone stapled the word tactical to a bathroom fixture and printed an invoice that could fund a small hospital. Congress eventually cracked down, but not before taxpayers flushed a few million down the literal drain. Somewhere out there, an accountant still thinks of it as high seating costs. And we wonder why aliens won't talk to us. They've seen our budgets. 14. The stockbroker who forgot. He quit his job. In 2014, a New York broker made headlines for accidentally trading millions. Turns out he'd left his firm weeks earlier, but his login credentials still worked. So one night after a few drinks, he decided to simulate trades for fun. Except the trades went live. By morning, his fake investments had lost $6.2 million of someone else's real money. The firm sued, he countersued, and both lost credibility faster than the Dow in a recession. His defense? I thought it was like a video game. Imagine explaining to a judge that your financial strategy was Call of Duty, Wall Street edition. The only bonus round he got was bankruptcy court. 15. The goldfish that outlived its trust fund. A wealthy widow with more affection than heirs left $200,000 in her will to her goldfish, Sir Splashington. The executor was tasked with maintaining the fish's custom aquarium lifestyle, including weekly massages and imported seaweed snacks. Naturally, the caretaker took this as a personal stimulus plan. Within 2 years, the money was gone, and the fish was still alive, now living in a $9 pet store tank like the world's smallest disgraced aristocrat. When the IRS reviewed the trust, they had to invent a new term, aquatic mismanagement. It's the only time in history that a financial fraud investigation ended with someone flushing the evidence down the toilet. 16. The man who bought an island and forgot about it. In 2003, an internet entrepreneur bought a small island off the coast of Belize as a tax shelter and weekend getaway. He visited once, hated the bugs, and never went back. Over the next decade, he forgot to pay property taxes, which slowly accumulated interest like a Bond villain's plan. By the time he remembered, locals had claimed the land under squatters' rights, and the government sold it at auction to a hotel chain that now rents it for $3,000 a night. The man tried to sue, arguing, "You can't just take my island." The judge replied, "You can, when you don't pay for it for 11 years. Congratulations." He invented the world's most expensive Airbnb listing, one he doesn't even get to stay in. 17. The couple who crowdfunded their divorce. Most couples split the furniture. These two split the internet. A pair from California announced their separation via GoFundMe, asking strangers for $15,000 to start their new independent journeys. The husband claimed he needed cash to heal through solo travel, while the wife requested energy-cleansing crystals and an apartment with ocean vibes. Somehow, they actually raised $6,000, mostly from people who just wanted to see how bad it would get. Within a month, they were fighting publicly over who got to keep the donations. The irony? They reconciled briefly to film a joint apology video monetized with ads, so technically their divorce made them money, just not enough to buy back their dignity. 18. The tax evader, who outsmarted himself. A Florida businessman thought he'd found a foolproof way to dodge the IRS. He created fake shell companies in the Cayman Islands, except he used his home address for every single one of them. When investigators arrived, his mailbox looked like a Caribbean post office, full of letters from Bahama Holdings, Inc. and Offshore Tax Solutions, LLC. In his panic, he claimed it was all performance art about capitalism. The IRS wasn't feeling interpretive. They confiscated everything except his collection of motivational posters, which is fitting because nothing screams irony like a framed dare. To dream hanging over a seized yacht. He's still giving TED Talks on entrepreneurial innovation, which I guess is technically true. 19. The woman who paid her taxes in pennies. In a masterclass of petty rebellion, a woman in Virginia decided to protest a $3,000 property tax bill by paying entirely in pennies, rolled, unrolled, and mixed with glitter. It took a wheelbarrow, 3 friends, and what I assume was the patience of a saint at City Hall. The clerk spent 7 hours counting. When she finally wheeled out feeling victorious, the local paper reported that her stunt had cost her an additional $400 in parking tickets and missed work. She later admitted she might have overcommitted to the bit. Now, congratulations, ma'am. You didn't beat the system, you just invented performance taxation. 20. The investor who mistook AI for air. During the artificial intelligence stock boom, one retiree invested $250,000 into what he thought was a revolutionary air purification startup. The company was called Air Innovations, stylized with a lowercase r. He proudly told friends he was deep in the AI game. When they asked which algorithm it used, he replied, lavender and mint. Months later, he realized he'd bought shares in a candle company whose smart diffuser was powered by batteries, not data science. When the stock tanked, he said it was due to volatility in the tech sector. No, friend. It was volatility in your reading comprehension. On the bright side, his living room smelled great during the bankruptcy. 21. The banker who faked a robbery to skip work. A mid-level banker in Minnesota didn't want to go to work one Monday. So instead of calling in sick like a normal human, he faked his own robbery. He called 911, claimed 2 masked men had stolen a bag of cash from his car, and described a cinematic chase sequence worthy of a Jason Bourne movie. The cops immediately noticed something off. The stolen bag was sitting in his trunk. When asked why he did it, he said, "I just couldn't handle another budget meeting." Congratulations, sir. You skipped a morning meeting and got 3 years of real-life confinement. It's the first case where an employee successfully transitioned from middle management to minimum security. 22. The man who tried to sell the Eiffel Tower twice. In 1925, a con artist named Victor Lustig read a newspaper article claiming the Eiffel Tower needed expensive repairs. Seeing opportunity, he forged government documents and invited wealthy scrap metal dealers to bid on buying the entire tower for demolition. One paid a huge bribe to secure the deal, and Lustig vanished to Vienna with the cash. Here's the kicker. A month later, he came back and did it again with a new group. He managed to scam Paris twice with the same fake sale. When the real government found out, they didn't even want to publicize it because it was too humiliating. Imagine committing a crime so embarrassing that the victim pretends it never happened. Honestly, it's the only pyramid scheme that literally involved a French landmark. 23. The guy who tried to flip a ghost town. A wannabe real estate mogul bought an abandoned mining town in Nevada for $1.2 million, branding it the next great desert retreat. He envisioned luxury yurts, influencers doing yoga on tumbleweeds, and a gift shop that sold vintage emptiness. He forgot one detail: water. The nearest functional well was 20 miles away, and the heat routinely hit 115-degree sewers. He spent $400,000 trucking in water before admitting defeat. Locals now call it the town of bad ideas, and his dream resort is just a collection of sun-bleached porta-potties. When asked if he regrets it, he said, "At least I own land. Sure, so does every cactus within 30 miles, and they're making better use of it." 24. The man who bankrupted himself. Couponing. He wasn't just a bargain hunter, he was a coupon warrior. This man from New Jersey spent 10 years mastering every possible deal, stacking discounts like Jenga blocks. He bought industrial printers, tracked sales across states, and proudly claimed he'd never paid retail since 2009. Then he started selling his savings packages online, complete with counterfeit coupons worth thousands. The FBI kicked in his door faster than a Black Friday shopper. His $50 masterclass in saving turned into a 7-year sentence for fraud. In the end, he didn't just lose money, he lost the right to shop unsupervised. The moral? If you ever find yourself bragging about saving $2.50 on yogurt, ask yourself if it's worth federal time. 25. The investor who bought a volcano. In 2013, a crypto evangelist bought an inactive volcano in the Philippines, announcing plans to build the world's first self-sustaining Bitcoin city. His plan was to power mining rigs using geothermal energy and create a utopia for financial freedom pioneers. Within 6 months, he discovered two things. The volcano wasn't inactive, and the local government wasn't thrilled about someone plugging servers into a lava tube. When it started rumbling, his investors panicked, pulling millions faster than lava down a slope. The volcano erupted just enough to destroy the equipment and the dream. His final press statement said, "We underestimated nature's volatility." Yeah, no kidding. He literally got rugged by geology. 26. The parrot that inherited a fortune. A retired tech millionaire with no kids decided his African gray parrot Skippy was the only being he trusted. His will left the bird $5 million a private caretaker and lifetime access to an organic almond budget larger than most college tuitions. Within months, the caretaker started living like a rock star: new cars, expensive vacations, and a suspicious number of training seminars in Ibiza. When the estate lawyers did an audit, they found the bird living in a cardboard box while the caretaker was posting selfies on yachts. The judge seized everything and relocated Skippy to a sanctuary, where he now yells, "Fraud," every time someone walks by. Somewhere that millionaire is looking down thinking, "I raised him well." 27. The man who bought cursed art at auction. A businessman in London paid $400,000 for a painting rumored to bring good fortune, because obviously, billionaires can't resist folklore. The auction house warned that previous owners had suffered unusual financial downturns, but he called it a coincidence perpetuated by the superstitious. Within a year, his company collapsed, his wife left, and his mansion flooded during a drought. Finally, he tried to donate the painting to a museum. They refused. He ended up selling it back to the same auction house at a $399,000 loss. To this day, the painting sits in storage because no one will touch it. In a way, it did bring him luck, just not the kind he ordered. 28. The billionaire who lost his password to reality. Some billionaires buy yachts, others build rockets. Then there's the one who decided to build his own country. He purchased a decommissioned oil rig off the coast of Panama and declared it the Republic of Oceania, with himself as president and minister of innovation. He printed passports, issued his own cryptocurrency, and convinced investors that sovereign citizenship tokens would revolutionize governance. Then came hurricane season. One storm flattened the rig, sank his servers, and scattered the national flag, a beach towel, across the Caribbean. His official statement: "Oceania will rebuild." It didn't. Turns out, the biggest threat to democracy isn't corruption, it's rust. 29. The man who accidentally liquidated his fortune. Literally, a British antiques dealer once decided to store his life savings, about $90,000, in rare gold coins inside a series of paint cans for security reasons. His logic? No thief would ever check an old shed full of rusty buckets. Unfortunately, neither did his new assistant, who decided to tidy up before repainting the office. He grabbed the wrong cans, filled them with white latex, and mixed away history's most expensive interior wall color. When the dealer discovered what happened, he tried to recover the coins by scraping the paint off the walls, only to learn that liquid gold is not a metaphor, it's a nightmare. In the end, his shop looked like a crime scene sponsored by Home Depot, and he had to sell the building to cover his redecorating costs. Interior design, 1. Financial planning, 0. 30. The pyramid scheme run by actual clowns. In 1998, a traveling circus tried to raise funds by selling future performance shares, basically tickets that doubled as investments in their next big tour. It sounded like a joke, because it was, but investors didn't get it. Hundreds of people bought in, expecting returns when the circus went public. Instead, it went missing. The CEO, a clown named Bobo, disappeared with the money, leaving behind a letter that read, "Sorry folks, the circus has left town." Authorities later found him performing in Belgium under a new stage name, Corporate Governance. It became the only Ponzi scheme in history that could legally fit 12 people into a single getaway car. Investors eventually got their revenge when Netflix made a documentary about it called Send in the Frowns. 31. The billion-dollar typo. In 2005, a Japanese stock trader accidentally entered a sell order for 610,000 shares at 1 yen each instead of 1 share at 610,000 yen. The mistake wiped out $225 million in 60 seconds and briefly crashed the Tokyo Stock Exchange. The company begged the exchange to cancel the order, but the system refused. For fairness. Fairness apparently meaning fairly catastrophic. When asked how the error happened, the trader said, "I was tired." That's it. No grand excuse, just a nap-related apocalypse. The exchange later upgraded its system to include a confirmation prompt, meaning one exhausted guy single-handedly inspired Japan's most expensive pop-up window. To this day, finance students call it the typo heard round the world. 32. The collector who built a mansion out of nickels. A retired engineer decided to prove that small change adds up, literally. Over 30 years, he saved nearly $200,000 in nickels, storing them in barrels that filled his entire garage. When the coin shortage hit in 2020, he thought he'd struck silver, or at least copper-nickel. The problem? His investment weighed 90 tons, and no bank could legally process that much currency without a crane. He spent months trying to melt them down for the metal value, which, fun fact, is illegal. By the time he hired movers to relocate his fortune, the structural engineer informed him his house foundation was collapsing under the weight. The only thing that appreciated was his chiropractor bill. In the end, he sold the nickels at face value to a scrapyard that accepted them as modern art. In a way, he finally diversified into regret. 33. The treasure hunt that bankrupted its creator. In 2010, an eccentric millionaire decided to hide a literal treasure chest filled with gold coins and jewels somewhere in the Rocky Mountains, worth around $2 million. He published cryptic poems with clues, turning America into one giant scavenger hunt. What he didn't count on was humanity's obsession with chaos. Thousands quit their jobs, sold their belongings, and spent years chasing it. Lawsuits, breakups, and 5 confirmed deaths later, someone finally found it. But by then, the millionaire had been sued into oblivion for reckless endangerment. The finder never revealed the exact location, and rumor has it the gold barely covered the millionaire's legal fees. It's the only case where hiding treasure cost more than keeping it. Indiana Jones searched for artifacts. This guy just found liability. 34. The lottery winner who tried to outsmart the curse. Every lottery winner fears the lotto curse, blowing through millions, losing friends, and ending up broke. So one guy in Texas came up with a brilliant plan. He'd pretend he didn't win. He quietly claimed the ticket through a trust, refused interviews, and told no one, not even his wife. Unfortunately, she was the one who always balanced their checkbook. She noticed a $30 million deposit labeled anonymous entity and assumed he was laundering money. She called the IRS. The investigation revealed everything. His wife divorced him, and half his winnings went to legal fees. In trying to beat the curse, he managed to invent a brand new one: financial invisibility with alimony. It's like witness protection, except the person you're hiding from is your spouse. 35. The yacht that sank at its own launch party. A billionaire in Monaco wanted to celebrate his new $120 million yacht, a marvel of modern engineering named Seaduction. Yes, with a hyphen. The problem? He demanded the ship's maiden voyage include a 30-foot champagne bottle smashed against the hull. The bottle shattered perfectly, and so did the hull. Turns out, no one calculated the pressure from a bottle that size, and it cracked a weld line. Within minutes, the world's newest super yacht was listing like a confused toddler. Guests scrambled into lifeboats, wearing designer tuxedos and expressions of pure existential dread. Insurance refused to pay because gross negligence isn't covered under vibes. The billionaire called it a minor setback. Translation: he's still underwater, just financially this time. 36. The startup that sold nothing, successfully. In 2017, a group of visionary entrepreneurs launched a company selling nothing, literally. They marketed it as conceptual minimalist ownership, a blank box representing freedom from materialism. Price: $49.99. The launch video featured a man opening an empty box and weeping at its purity. Within weeks, they'd sold out. Customers proudly posted selfies with their purchases, hashtagging #DashOwnNothing. The company made millions, investors poured in, until the founders revealed it was all satire. They'd never actually incorporated the business or filed taxes. The IRS disagreed with the performance art defense and seized their real assets. Irony complete. The guys who sold nothing ended up owning nothing. If there's a Nobel Prize for hypocrisy, they should at least get the prototype box. 37. The chocolate factory that literally melted its assets. A self-proclaimed dessert visionary decided to create an eco-friendly chocolate factory powered entirely by solar panels. Cute idea, until summer. His warehouse hit 120-degree Celsius and his eco-conscious production model turned $2 million worth of artisan truffles into one large, sticky swimming pool. Instead of admitting defeat, he declared it a new product line called Liquid Cacao Experience and invited influencers for tastings. It went as well as you'd expect. Dozens of visitors left covered in what looked like Willy Wonka's crime scene. The cleanup alone cost more than his startup funding. He now works as a consultant, teaching others how to embrace pivoting. Buddy, when your pivot involves industrial mop buckets, it's not innovation, it's confectionery arson. 38. The heiress who tried to buy happiness, literally. An oil heiress from Texas once hired a happiness consultant, a self-titled guru who charged $10,000 a week to help her vibrate at a higher frequency. His strategy: daily affirmations, imported Himalayan salt lamps, and what he called joy investments. Over 6 months, she bought 12 goats for emotional grounding, a $400,000 crystal bathtub, and an island in Greece shaped kind of like a smiley face. When her accountant intervened, she fired him for having low vibrational energy. The guru disappeared shortly after with $1.7 million in spiritual reimbursement funds. When reporters asked how she felt, she said, "Honestly, I'm still not happy." Shocker. Turns out joy isn't tax deductible, and enlightenment doesn't come with a receipt. 39. The tycoon who tried to freeze his fortune. In a glorious act of paranoia, a Silicon Valley billionaire decided to cryogenically freeze his money, literally, to preserve its value. He converted $8 million into rare collector coins and stored them in an underground nitrogen vault at 200 degrees C, convinced this would beat inflation. Spoiler: metal expands and contracts with temperature. After 5 years, the coins had fused into a single glittering lump of science's middle finger. When he tried to sue the cryonics lab, their defense was perfect. "We warned you money doesn't like the cold." Now he keeps the metallic iceberg on display in his office as a symbol of impermanence. Translation: a very shiny monument to poor decision-making. 40. The man who misspelled his own tombstone. Expensively, a self-made millionaire in New Jersey was so obsessed with his personal brand that he pre-ordered his own tombstone. Black marble, gold leaf, the works, with the phrase "never misspell a thing" etched proudly on top. Yes, with one L. His family begged him to correct it, but he insisted the typo was part of the legacy. Then inflation hit, and the stonemason's business folded before finishing the job. A new company completed it, charging double. In total, he paid $75,000 for a monument to both wealth and irony. Today, tourists visit the grave just to take photos. The man's epitaph is wrong, but his legacy absolutely spelled out in bad decisions. 41. The man who claimed alien abduction as a tax deduction. A Nevada resident filed his taxes in 2012 and listed alien abduction trauma under medical expenses. He even attached a 14-page report detailing how extraterrestrials experimented on his finances. When the IRS flagged it, he argued it was unfair to tax interplanetary victims. He even brought a lawyer, who lasted 10 minutes before quitting mid-hearing. The IRS eventually fined him $20,000 for fraud, but he appealed, saying he could summon his abductors as witnesses. They didn't show his final statement to the press. They erased the receipts. Somewhere in space, an alien accountant is laughing. It's the only time in history someone tried to write off being beamed up. 42. The socialite who auctioned her friends. In 2019, a Manhattan socialite launched a charity auction where the items were her personal friendships. For $10,000, donors could buy brunch with her, and for $50,000, they'd get exclusive access to her birthday party. The media ate it up, until one bidder paid $70,000 and asked for a refund, claiming she was terrible company. Lawsuits followed, and the IRS began investigating whether selling companionship counted as taxable income or just emotional securities fraud. She tried to spin it as a commentary on modern relationships, But the only commentary that stuck was her Yelp review. 2 stars, overrated conversation. Somewhere out there, her accountant's still crying into a mimosa. 43. The hedge fund that invested in a ghost. A group of tech investors in California decided to disrupt the paranormal industry. Their startup Spectre promised to monetize haunted properties by offering supernatural tourism experiences. They raised $40 million in venture capital, bought a famously haunted mansion, and spent millions trying to digitally capture spiritual energy. Their prototype ghost scanner turned out to be a $20 EMF reader spray-painted silver. When the mansion burned down due to faulty wiring, they called it a powerful manifestation. The insurance company called it arson. By the time the smoke cleared, they'd lost everything except a very fitting tagline: "Our profits have moved on to the other side." Silicon Valley innovation, folks, now available in spectral form. 44. The woman who tried to trademark the word money. A self-proclaimed influencer entrepreneur attempted to trademark the word money so she could license it to banks. Her logic: if people pay to use songs or images, why not the word that defines them all? The U.S. Patent and Trademark Office politely rejected her 37-page application filled with motivational quotes and clip art of dollar bills. Instead of taking the L, she sued, claiming linguistic theft. The judge dismissed the case in under 5 minutes, calling it a misunderstanding of both commerce and reality. Undeterred, she launched a rebrand, Mooney TM, with an accented O. Her followers praised her hustle mindset, but her accountant described it best: she's trying to monetize oxygen next. Honestly, I wouldn't bet against her trying. 45. The prince who bought an imaginary airport. A wealthy businessman from Dubai once paid $30 million for the rights to build a private airport in a newly developed smart city. Unfortunately, the city didn't exist. It was a digital render from a concept artist's portfolio. The scammers had built an entire website, complete with drone footage, virtual tours, and fake politicians shaking hands. The prince's lawyers tried to claim diplomatic fraud, but you can't prosecute Photoshop. When the truth came out, he released a statement saying, "This is a learning opportunity for the global investment community." Translation: I bought Microsoft Paint for $30 million. On the bright side, his imaginary planes have great on-time performance. 46. The couple who lost everything to a psychic dog. A couple in Florida became obsessed with their dog's spiritual potential. They hired an animal medium who claimed to translate the pet's financial advice from the beyond. The dog advised them to invest in a cryptocurrency named Lunabone. Within months, they'd poured in their life savings and even remortgaged their house to honor the dog's vision. Naturally, the coin collapsed to zero, the psychic vanished, and the dog went viral for sitting beside a "for sale" sign. When interviewed by a local news crew, the husband said, "We should have known when she said he was a reincarnated banker." Honestly, if your financial planner drools on your shoes, maybe double-check their credentials. 47. The billionaire who burned his money for art. In 2020, a performance artist turned billionaire decided to prove that true wealth is meaningless. His masterpiece, a live stream where he burned $10 million in cash over a 12-hour broadcast called Ashes of Value. Critics called it a commentary on capitalism. Viewers called it a felony. Authorities called it evidence. When investigators found out the money was counterfeit, he was arrested anyway for producing fake currency. The art world called it postmodern irony. The IRS called it tax evasion. Today, he lectures at art schools about ephemeral capital. In other words, he's broke. The only thing he successfully set on fire was his reputation. 48. The man who tried to buy the moon. For our grand finale, meet Dennis Hope, the man who literally tried to purchase the moon. In 1980, he filed a claim of ownership with the UN, citing a loophole in the Outer Space Treaty. When no one replied, because it's the moon, he assumed silence meant approval. He then started selling lunar acres for $25 each, complete with certificates. Over 4 decades, he made millions selling imaginary land to real idiots, including celebrities and 2 former presidents. But here's the punchline. In 2019, NASA clarified that his deeds have 0 legal standing. His lunar empire was worth less than a bag of astronaut ice cream. To this day, he insists he's the rightful owner of the moon. Sure, Dennis. You and every toddler with a telescope. And there you have it. 48 flawless examples of capitalism doing a backflip into a blender. From billionaires buying volcanoes to dogs giving crypto advice, humanity has proven one thing. The only guaranteed investment on Earth is stupidity. So, which one deserves the Financial Darwin Award? Vote for your favorite disaster in the comments. And remember, if it sounds like a good idea after midnight and 2 margaritas, it probably belongs in the next episode. Still think you're good with money? Tell me your dumbest financial decision below. I'm taking notes for Season 2.